These are the stories topping the news. Finance Minister updates Chamber of Industry and Commerce on meeting of the ECCB Monetary Council. Haitians march after National was lynched, and bilateral relations between Indonesia and Australia remain intact. Good afternoon and welcome to ZIZ's Midday Newscast for Thursday, 26th February 2015. I am JD Keynes, and now for a look at the news in detail. Finance Minister, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, used Wednesday's meeting of the St. Kitts Nevis Chamber of Industry and Commerce to provide an update on his recent meeting with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank's Monetary Council. Dr. Harris said the meeting dealt with weighty matters of the financial services sector. He said they addressed the sector's many challenges in the context of the globalizing economy, the small size of member states, and the limited opportunities for investment.
In the midst of all those challenges which are there, some deep-seated within the financial sector, which therefore provides a significant challenge as to what we can do in the economy. With that background, since the financial sector is like the lubricant that should keep things going smoothly, how do we advance?
Dr. Harris listed some of the challenges that were identified in the meeting.
We are told, for example, that we have all these monies in deposits. We are big on deposits. We are smaller on loans. We are smaller in terms of meeting the expectations of people whose expectations have to be met if the country is going to advance and be transformed as a result of that own advancement.
That was Minister of Finance, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris. The 2015 Leeward Islands debating competition gets underway today, Thursday, when students of the British Virgin Islands compete against St. Martin. Tonight's debate will commence at 7 p.m. and students will debate the moot. The CARICOM region's failure to legalize marijuana is a colossal mistake. ZIZ will offer live coverage of the nightly debates via the internet and radio. The 2015 Leeward Islands debating competition will be held at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort. Meantime, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, the Honorable Sean Richards, and Tourism Minister, the Honorable Lindsay Grant, were among the dignitaries present at Wednesday evening's welcome reception for the region's debaters.
We are happy that you have arrived safely and that you are ready for the debates. I looked at the moods to be presented, and indeed there are some heavy topics, with our debaters having to critically think about and present such topics. I know that our region will soon be producing some young people of high caliber.
Last night's welcome reception was chaired by Director of Employee and Program Development at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College, Lake Narayan. Regionally, 2 weeks after a Haitian man was lynched in the Dominican Republic, thousands marched through the streets of Port-au-Prince on Wednesday, demanding justice and denouncing rising anti-Haitian sentiment in the neighboring Spanish-speaking country. It was a rare display of unity that attracted a cross-section of Haitians, including professionals, former presidential candidates, musicians, and everyday citizens. With flags draped around their shoulders, they walked alongside school children who sang the country's national anthem as they made their way from the Champ de Mars to Haiti's foreign ministry and finally to the Dominican embassy. At the Foreign Ministry, workers in a silent display of solidarity displayed the Haitian flag and handed out miniature flags to marchers, including police officers who waved them while escorting the protest. It was the second time in 4 years that Haitians took to the streets to denounce perceived racism in a neighboring country. But unlike in 2011, when Haitians marched to decry Jamaica's treatment of Haiti's under-17 soccer players amid a cholera outbreak, this show of solidarity comes amid heightened tensions between Haiti and the Dominican Republic and rising concerns about the mistreatment of Haitian migrants in the Bahamas. St. Lucia's Water and Sewage Company, WASCO, is preparing for a prolonged dry spell and is urging consumers to do the same. The company summoned a news conference on Tuesday to announce that St. Lucians should brace themselves for the coming drought. Don Nicholas has the details.
St. Lucia will long remember the 5-month drought a few years ago and its impact on the country. This time around, WASCO is taking no chances. The company is putting measures in place to maximize water supply. The Water and Sewage Company is also preparing for the first phase of desilting the John Compton Dam. This first phase is intense and is expected to be completed in 4 to 5 weeks. WASCO authorities have identified a site to dispose of the silt.
About 1 kilometer away from the dam, there is a site we call the laydown area. That site has a capacity about 2 million, to accommodate about 2 million cubic meters of silt or material, properly engineered with dikes, so that and also taking into consideration the soil types and things like this, the geotechnical aspects of the area, to ensure that it can actually hold that material. So the thinking is the silt that will be coming out of the reservoir would be stacked in that area.
There are social issues that must be considered as the desilting exercise is undertaken. To this end, 2 project advisory committees have been set up and have had 2 meetings so far with nearby communities.
We have met with the community of Millet on 2 occasions, and we'll have subsequent meetings with them again as time passes by. We've also had a project advisory committee set up, and that's for a national project advisory committee, and we've had 2 meetings with them. We've had stakeholders meetings on the project, major key stakeholders. We've had 2 such stakeholder meetings. So we have done all of this, and it's continuing.
WASCO is also in the process of constructing a treatment plant for water entering the Castries Harbour. The plant will be constructed in such a way that it can easily be dismantled and will be operated at minimal cost. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
Bilateral relations between Indonesia and Australia have remained intact despite Indonesia's refusal to halt the execution of 2 Australian drug traffickers, a spokesperson for the Indonesian Foreign Ministry said on Thursday. We hear more in this report.
Protesters outside the Australian embassy in Jakarta. Australia's Prime Minister has been working to get 2 of his country's citizens off death row for trying to smuggle heroin from the resort island of Bali to Australia. Tony Abbott said he has had telephone discussions with Indonesia's president.
I don't think it would help the case of these 2 young Australians if I was to start ventilating in public the contents of the conversation. Suffice to say that the president absolutely understands our position.
An Indonesian court rejected a clemency appeal in the cases of the Australians Andrew Chan and Myran Sukumaran, along with 7 others facing a firing squad. Last week, Abbott indicated that Indonesia would face diplomatic consequences if the executions went ahead. A spokesman for the Indonesian Foreign Ministry said,
I would also like to stress that it's important that these representations, these efforts are made within the corridor of the law in Indonesia.
But the death penalty is part of the country's legal system. An Indonesian firing squad executed 6 convicted drug traffickers in January.
Goodluck Jonathan says he'll create 2 million jobs if he is re-elected as president of Nigeria. But the low price of oil, which is the bedrock of the economy, may impact those plans. Around a quarter of Nigerians of working age are currently unemployed. Amongst the youth, the figure is much higher, at more than 50%. Even Nadej reports from Abuja.
They were clamoring for seats to take an aptitude test for jobs at Nigeria's immigration service at the National Stadium in Abuja in March last year. Moments later, there was a stampede and 16 people were killed. Over 700,000 had shown up at venues like this to apply for just 4,500 jobs. Paul Nasiru has 3 children and lost his wife that day. The government promised to give him and others like him a job as compensation, something he says the government is working on.
I feel like it's an accident that occurred. It's not an intentional act So I believe that nobody invite people to kill in the name of saying, I give you job. So I believe it's an accident. And the federal government has promised immediately to recruit the 3 members of the family so that they can fill in the gap to condole us.
The government is now advertising more jobs. Moses Azenda has decided to apply. He survived last year's stampede.
I had to survive, so I looked for a safe place and stayed there. And after the stampede, after everything calmed down, I moved out with some of the friends I went there with.
The stampede at the jobs fair shows unemployment is a serious problem. Around 1.6 million students graduate every year, but there are not nearly enough jobs for them. And so when the government advertised vacancies, literally millions of people apply.
The government says safety has been improved.
Crowd control architecture that will be put in place now will take into cognizance that mistake. And therefore, only eligible persons, duly selected, duly invited at this point in time, will be allowed to attend.
Moses is hoping that will be the case.
I almost lost hope in the scheme of things in Nigeria. I almost lost hope, especially looking at the diseased applicants. I almost lost hope, but I was able to pick up and say, okay, I don't have to lose hope like that.
But the impact of new government jobs being offered is expected to be minimal. Nearly 25% of people here are without jobs. Yvonne Dege, Al Jazeera, Abuja, Nigeria.
Turning now to the weather. Across St. Kitts and Nevis today, we will enjoy gentle breezes with winds coming from an easterly direction at 14 to 23 miles per hour over land and peaking near 29 miles per hour over coastal waters, mainly tonight. Temperatures today will peak at 24 degrees Celsius. Skies will be partly cloudy, becoming mostly sunny this afternoon. Expect fair skies tonight, becoming partly cloudy overnight with a slight chance of a light passing shower. And that wraps up ZIZ Midday Newscast for today, Thursday. Join us this evening for the details to these stories and more in our major newscast. I have been your presenter, JD Keynes. Have a great afternoon.